Good morning, calculus. Hey, we're going to try something here. I'm going to use a different, notice see the bleed through. I'm going to use a different one later. I got to go to school and pick up a different notebook. But I'm going to try something different with our notes. I'm going to pre-write them. I'm going to put these on our Google Classroom. So you can print these out if you would like, or you can just take your own notes. It doesn't matter. Uh, but this is kind of how I foresee us doing some things right now. So we'll kind of go through it here uh, and see. So this is on our first review assignment, and biggest thing is domain and functions. I chose, I believe it's number 1C, because I have a feeling that may be one of the biggest issues for you. So the idea when you see the word domain and function, you're really just kind of looking at, okay, what do they want me to plug in? And where can I plug it in? Is there a set of rules that don't let me plug things in to the equation? So we have f of x equals 4x minus x squares. Again, I think this is number one. Uh, and I believe C says, well, I want you to find f of x plus h minus f of x all over 2h. So honestly, this is what one of the first things we're going to do is something that looks like this. They get super ugly really fast, but you can kind of deal with them. So let's just kind of walk through what this first assignment is really asking us to do. They're giving you the function, and then they're telling you a useful domain to insert into the function. So I'm going to take x plus h and I'm going to put it in there for that x, and I'm going to put it in there for that x right there. That's all they're asking us to do. So this is what I get. I get 4 times the quantity x plus h, and I get x plus h squared. So that x just became x plus h. That's all they're asking you to do in all of them. So just make sure that you're just substituting in correctly. And then the last piece is f of x. They just want you to subtract f of x. Well, what is f of x? F of x is 4x minus x squared. So we just put that in. I choose, you don't have to, but I choose to do brackets and different things so I can keep track of these negatives that are out in front. So when you see me do that, I just keep track of the negatives, because honestly, that's one of the worst mistakes that'll happen to you in calculus is you forget a negative at the very beginning of the problem and you work 10 minutes on it and you realize that the answer is wrong, but everything else is right. So we've got this done. I've got 4 times the quantity x plus h gives me 4x plus h. I have x plus h quantity squared, which gives me x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. Again, I put it in brackets so I can make sure that when I look at this, I'm going to distribute that negative into each one of these. I got to distribute it there. And then I leave that one the same because I'm going to make sure I keep track of that negative and put it there. So what happens in these, and it'll happen in every single one of them, is that when it gets really large like this, it should condense down really quickly. So if I look at a 4x here, I have a negative 4x here. So those are going to cancel. If I have a negative x squared here times a negative, that gives me a positive x squared. It cancels with this negative x squared. And I don't think anything else cancels, so I rewrite the equation. And my equivalent is 4h minus 2xh minus h squared all over 2h. I can factor out an h out of each one of these because I have an h in each one. And those will simplify into the quantity of 1. And so we get 4 minus 2x minus h over 2. And that is my simplified answer. Very big concept for you guys to understand right here. But it's a lot of algebra, and the algebra will get you every single time. But just remember, when we're dealing with domain and functions and you see something like this, they're just wanting you to take the domain that they give you and they want you to insert that correct domain into it. That's for worksheet 1. The second half of worksheet 1 is interval notation, and we may need a little refresher course on interval notation. So don't forget, for interval notation, parentheses is your less than or greater than. And your brackets are less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. And you just got to make sure you keep track of those. Infinity always uses those guys, because remember, you cannot touch infinity, so it's always either greater than negative infinity or it's less than positive infinity, always. So this one here means greater than, this one here means less than, this one here is greater. I wrote them backwards, sorry. But that's the idea. All right, so they want you to take this one in interval notation. I chose number 2, x cubed minus x squared plus x. If you put it in your calculator, or don't forget, you can use Desmos right now. We'll deal with the calculator stuff a little later. You put that in the calculator. What are the usable x values, which is your domain? Well, this thing will travel forever to the left and forever to the right. So I'm going to be negative infinity, which is going to be less than x, which is less than positive infinity. So my interval notation has our 2 parentheses. Sorry, I shouldn't have wrote it that way. It's going to be negative infinity to positive infinity. You don't need to put greater than or equal to. So it looks something like that. Okay. There's a few specific problems we can come up with, and these are the ones that you got to watch out for. If you put it in the calculator, it gives you this, but it does not give you this piece right here. It gives you this nice smooth line and this nice smooth line. If you perform a little algebra on it, refactor it a little bit, these are going to simplify out to 1, so you're going to be left with this piece. Well, that tells us that there's our vertical asymptote here, which means that x cannot equal 4. But we cannot forget that this was in the original problem, and if we set this equal to 0, we get plus or minus 4. So if we set that equal to 0, x cannot equal plus or minus 4. So how do we signify that piece right there? Well, we draw our graph. So if you plug it in the calculator, we get our graph, and our graph pops out like this, which I already have it written there for you guys. It gives you a blank, or it gives some crazy funky line right at the -4. And then it doesn't show this. It actually gives you a nice smooth line like that, but way smoother than mine. But all you do to account for this 4 is just erase part of it and put a circle there. That just means it's not continuous right there. It's got a hole in the graph. So then we write our interval notation. We start way over here at negative infinity, wrong one. We got negative infinity, and then that travels until it hits -4. It can't equal either one, so it's less than -4 and greater than negative infinity. And then it travels from here to 4, so it can be greater than -4 but less than 4. And then it travels off to positive infinity, and that's where we come up with our 2 pieces there. Just a quick idea of what that first review sheet is looking like. Other than that, the second sheet is just plugging in into Desmos, and then we will talk about that, or see me at my office hours if you have any trouble with it.